Hi, this is I'm on your side, Dr. Corus Jack here. This has been inspired by I've been thinking about it for a long time, and by Mr. Jeremy Grantham. And there was an article in the Irish Times today, and I mean I'm hearing it all the time. So let's just say what this is about. It's about the squeeze middle is not a myth. It's a broken social contract. So we're hearing it's not the squeezed middle anymore, it's the new working poor. And let's just see how this has come to be. If you work full time, follow the rules. I used to do economics, years ago, and econometrics. Maybe that's finance, things like that. Maybe it's coming out of me somewhere. If you work full time, follow the rules. Pay accountancy. Oh yeah, I was already going to that. If you work full time, follow the rules. Pay your taxes. You should be able to afford a secure home and a decent life. Well, but in Ireland today, that promise is breaking. You're not imagining it, you're not failing, and this is just not a cost of living crisis. It's something deeper. This video explains why the so-called squeeze middle is actually experiencing a breach of the social contract. Now, this has come from a groundbreaking interview that Bloomberg did with Jeremy Grantham, which was the kind of origin, started off my YouTube station. And so this is how long I've been thinking about this, and why that breach is causing real psychological and democratic harm. For decades, Ireland, like most democracies, operated on a simple deal. If you worked, got educated, followed the rules, then you would expect housing security, access to healthcare, a reasonable standard of living, dignity and fairness. This was the moral foundation of post-war democracy. But today, full-time work no longer guarantees housing, middle incomes no longer guarantee security, and anxiety has replaced stability. This is not an accident, it's a structural breach, and we can't blame Ireland for this. This is a global issues here, so this is a global problem. So why cost of living is the wrong frame? We're constantly told this is about inflation, global shocks, temporary pressures, but these explanations minimise the harm. Is that a bit of gaslighting? I'm the expert. What's actually happening is this: the cost of essential, non-optional goods, housing, energy, insurance, all kinds of healthcare, childcare has risen permanently faster than wages. I mean, I did, a longitudinal study of the cost of housing relative to the wage. It's staggering. You can't opt out of these. You can't budget better your way out of them. This is not market pressure. This is a loss of freedom. Housing, the core Irish failure. Nowhere is this clearer than housing. In Ireland, homes are increasingly treated as financial assets. Global institutions, investors buy entire developments. So we see that in Dublin, all the US pension funds buying up loads of apartments, etc. Local workers are locked into permanent renting. Housing has shifted from a place to live to a yield-generating asset class. This is not normal, it is not inevitable, and it's not happening everywhere to anything like the same degree. And we'll give one example, which I mentioned in another paper on housing. Vienna, for example, houses 60% of its population, including middle-income earners, in secure, high-quality non-profit housing. I mean, Vienna is a phenomenal town. Imagine if they able to do this. Ireland has chosen a different path, up to date, and choices have consequences. So I'm calling this now a moral injury. Why this feels so personal? Here's the part we never talk about. This situation causes moral injury. This is what I'm putting up to the powers that be now. Listen to it. Moral injury happens when institutions violate deeply held expectations of fairness. Now, there is a brilliant Supreme Court judge, apparently, I can't remember his name, but I always remember he said the essence of justice is fairness, and that you cannot have justice without fairness. So that's why I'm so focusing on that. He's apparently one of the most brilliant Supreme Court judges of all time, but he always said that. Right? I can't locate his name at the moment, but anyway, he was a phenomenal Supreme Court judge in America, very highly respected. But he said you cannot have justice without fairness. So that's why this is why we're mentioning fairness here. People feel betrayed, ashamed, even though it's not their fault, you see, angry but exhausted, politically disengaged. That's why so many people say, I did everything right and it still didn't work. You see, they blame themselves. This is not weakness, this is injury. And that's the seriousness of it now. And let's move to my other. I'm very interested in justice, and there's a particular person here who's brilliant on this. We mentioned her here. Epistemic injustice, being silenced while hurting. There's another injustice layered on top of all this. Philosopher Miranda Fricker called it epistemic injustice, being wronged as a knower. It happens when lived experience is dismissed as anecdotal, hardship is reframed as personal failure, only technocratic or elite voices is treated as credible. We won't mention any names. When people lack the language to explain what's happening to them, they're excluded from democracy itself. That's not just unfair, it's dangerous. Here's the good news. This is not radical, it's not utopian, and it's not unprecedented. Countries have fixed this by treating housing as infrastructure, not speculation, expanding cost rental and non-profit housing, taxing wealth and rents more fairly, protecting tenants and regulating essentials, including lived experience in policy making. These are incremental repairs, not revolution. So I'm all about the incremental, like I'm incremental, but sometimes, one has to, do something a little bit more than that. But incremental, can sometimes look like, incremental means, just shifting. This is what's missing is not knowledge. Of course, it's political will. So the squeeze middle is not a mystery. It is not a moral failure, and it's not something people should quietly endure. I mean, this was the headline news in today's Irish Times. I just saw it there in the feed. It's a signal that the social contract has been reached, a signal, and that repair is overdue. So repair, naming harm is the first step. Justice begins with recognition. So a call to action: if this reflects your experience, share this video, talk about it, refuse the narrative that this is just how things are, because societies do not collapse from protest. Sometimes they collapse from silence. So that's there's the paper that I've just finished, that expands all of this, and I've been working on it because the YouTube station was kind of inspired by the work of that interview by Jeremy Grantham, and the paper. I'll just get the name of that paper there because that's just a kind of a summary of it. It's just give me so many ideas, not enough time to remember everything. So let me sort this one out. Yeah. They're all on. Yeah. So. Yeah. So this paper is on academia.edu, but I mean, I know, from talking to people, all around the world, and reading, posts and that this is a major issue worldwide. So we can't, but it's particularly, the housing is particularly, it's a particular problem in Ireland, and we haven't addressed it like the Viennese. We just have, we've deferred to capitalism or to unbridled capitalism too much. But there's always a shift. We can always shift. But let's identify the problem first. So, excuse me. It's the paper is called "Violating the Social Contract: Moral Injury and Epistemic Injustice in the squeeze middle." So I'm kind of passionate about justice, and this paper breaks down the different forms of justice that Fricker, that Fricker kind of has in her work, but it links it into this whole area. So from that point of view, and Grantham's the social contract and economics and things like that. So there's a new dimension in this way. I've just these are two things I'm interested in, and I've kind of put them together in this paper. So I think it's important that we don't blame ourselves for the fact that we find ourselves in this position, that there is a moral injury here caused by years of poor policy, and we can do better and we can shift, and it doesn't require a revolution. It just requires incremental change in the right